beginning of his Hitchhiker's trilogy.
I'll be playing the part of Arthur Dent.
I'll be playing the part of Narrator 1 and Bogan.
I'll be playing the parts of Narrator 2 and Bartender.
I'll be playing the part of Prosser.
I will be playing the part of Ford Prefect.
Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy, there lays a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 98 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose 8 descended life forms are so amazingly primitive they still think digital watches are a pretty neat idea.
One Thursday, a terrible, stupid catastrophe occurred.
The story begins with a house. Not a remarkable house by any means. The only person for whom the house was in any way special was Arthur Dent, and that was only because it happened to be the one he lived in.
At 8 o'clock on Thursday morning, Arthur woke up early, got up, put on his bathrobe, wandered around his room, opened a window, saw several big yellow bulldozers, found his slippers, and stalked off to the bathroom to wash. He drank a large glass of water.
Bulldozers. What?
15 seconds later, Arthur was out of the house and standing in the mud in front of a big yellow bulldozer that had been advancing up his garden path.
Mr. L. Prosser was, as they say, only human. In other words, he was a carbon-based bipedal life form descended from an ape.
Come off it, Mr. Dent. You can't stay in front of those bulldozers indefinitely. This expressway has got to get built and is going to get built.
Why is it gonna get built?
What do you mean, why? It's an expressway. You've got to build expressways. You're quite entitled to make any suggestions or protests at the appropriate time, you know?
Appropriate time? The first time I knew about it was when a workman arrived at my house yesterday and said he'd come to demolish the house.
But Mr. Dent, the plans have been available in the local planning office for the last 9 months.
Yes, well, as soon as I heard, I went straight around to see them. You hadn't gone out of your way to call attention to them, had you? I mean, like actually telling anybody?
Plans were on display.
On display? I had to go down to the cellar to find them?
That's the display department.
With a flashlight?
The lights have probably gone out.
So had the stairs?
Well, you found the notice, didn't you?
Yes, I did. It was on display in the bottom of a locked filing cabinet stuck in a disguised laboratory with a sign that says, "Beware of the leopard."
Mr. Dent, have you any idea how much damage that bulldozer would suffer if I just let it roll straight over you?
How much?
None at all.
By a curious coincidence, none at all is exactly how much suspicion the ape descendant, Arthur Dent, had that one of his closest friends was not descended from an ape, but was in fact from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Betelgeuse.
This friend of his had first arrived on the planet Earth some 15 Earth years previously, and he had worked hard to blend himself into Earth society, with some success. He had made one careless blunder, though. He had chosen the name Ford Prefect, thinking it would be nicely inconspicuous.
15 years is a long time to be stranded anywhere, particularly somewhere as mind-bogglingly dull as the Earth.
Ford wished that a flying saucer would arrive soon, because he knew how to flag down flying saucers and hitch rides on them.
Hello, Arthur.
Ford, how are you?
Fine. Look, are you busy?
Am I busy? Well, I've just got these bulldozers and things to stand in front of because they'll knock down my house if I don't. But other than that...
They don't have sarcasm on Beetlejuice, and Ford Prefect often failed to notice it unless he was concentrating.
Good. Is there anywhere we can talk?
What?
For a few seconds, Ford stared into the sky, like a rabbit trying to get run over by a car.
We've got to talk and drink. Now, we'll go to the pub in the village.
Look, don't you understand? That man wants to knock down my house.
We can do it while we're away, Annie.
But I don't want him to. What's the matter with you, Ford?
Nothing. Listen, I've got to tell you the most important thing you've ever heard. And I've got to tell you in the pub.
Why the pub?
Because you're going to need a very stiff drink.
But what about the house?
I'm sure we can come to some arrangement. Excuse me.
Yes, has Mr. Dent come to his senses yet?
Can we, for the moment, assume that he has?
Well then,
And can we also assume that he's going to be staying here all day? So all your men are going to be standing here around all day doing nothing.
Could be.
Well, if you're resigned to doing that anyway, you don't actually need him to stand here all the time, do you?
What?
You don't actually need him here.
Well, no, not as such. Not exactly need.
So if you would just like to take it that he's actually here, then he and I could slip off down to the pub for a half an hour. How does that sound?
That sounds reasonable.
So if you would just come over and stand here.
What?
I'm sorry. Perhaps I hadn't made myself fully clear. Somebody's got to stand in front of the bulldozers, haven't they? Or there won't be anything to stop them from driving into Mr. Dent's house, will there?
Or what are you talking about?
You want me to come and stand there, in front of the bulldozers instead of Mr. Dent,
Yes.
in the mud,
In, as you say, the mud.
in return for which you will take Mr. Dent with you down to the pub.
That's it. That's it exactly.
Promise?
Promise.
Mr. Prosser stepped forward nervously and felt the mud ooze into his shoes.
And no sneaking knocking down Mr. Dent's house, we're away. All right?
The thought hadn't even begun to speculate about the merest possibility of crossing my mind.
Good. Let's go, Arthur.
But can we trust him?
I trust him to the end of the earth.
Oh yes. How far is that?
About 12 minutes. Here we are, bartender, 6 pints of bitter, and quickly, please, the world's about to end.
Oh, is it, sir? Nice weather for it. There you are, sir, 6 pints.
Keep the change.
From a 5-pound note? Thank you, sir.
You've got 10 minutes to spend it.
Ford, would you please tell me what's going on?
Drink up. You've got 3 pints to get through.
Why 3 pints just like that?
Muscle relaxing. You'll need it.
This must be Thursday. I never could get a hang of Thursdays.
All right, I'll try to explain. How would you react if I said I'm from a small planet somewhere in the vicinity of Beetlejuice?
I don't know. Why? Do you think it's the sort of thing you're likely to say?
At that moment, from outside came a dull, rumbling crash.
What's that?
Don't worry, they haven't started yet.
Thank God for that.
Probably just your house being knocked down.
What? My God, they are! They're knocking down my house! Stop, you vandals! You home wreckers! You half-sized Biscoff! I'll have you hung, drawn and quartered and whipped and boiled and baked. Then I'll have all the pieces and I'll jump on them until... What's that?
Huge yellow somethings were screaming through the clouds. Impossibly huge yellow somethings. They tore the sky apart with mind-boggling noise and leaped off into the distance, leaving the gaping air to shut behind with a bang that drove your ears 6 feet into your skull.
All around the world, city streets exploded with people. Cars skid into each other as the noise fell on them and rolled off like a tidal wave.
Only one man knew exactly what was happening. He had known ever since his sub Ether Sensimatic had started winking in the dead of the night. When he deciphered the signal pattern, a coldness had gripped his heart. He knew what he had to do.
A sudden silence hit the earth. The great ships hung motionless in the sky over every nation.
People of Earth, your attention, please. This is Prosetnik Vogon Jeltz of the Galactic Hyperspace Planning Council. As you will no doubt be aware, the plans for development of the outlying regions of the galaxy require the building of a hyperspatial express route through your star system, and regrettably, your planet is one of those scheduled for demolition. The process will take slightly less than 2 of your Earth minutes. Thank you. Uncomprehending terror settled on the watching people of Earth.
Panic sprouted. Desperate, fleeing panic. But there was nowhere to flee.
There's no point acting surprised about it. All the planning charts and demolition orders have been on your display in your local planning department in Alpha Centauri for 50 of your Earth years. You've had plenty of time to lodge any formal complaints. It's far too late to start making a fuss about it now.
Ready, Arthur?
Ready. Ready for what?
I'm rescuing you. The Earth is about to be demolished.
And just how are you going to rescue me from that?
We're hitching a ride on one of those spaceships.
Excuse me? Are you trying to tell me we're just going to stick our thumbs out and some green bug-eyed monster will poke out his head and say, "Hi, fellas, come right in."
Well, the thumb is this electronic subby, the signaling device, but otherwise, that's more or less right.
Now I know it's Thursday.
This is it, Arthur. Up we go.
The huge ships turned slowly in the sky. On the underside of each, a hatchway opened. An empty black square. Suddenly, light poured out of the hatchways.
There was a terrible, ghastly noise.
There was a terrible, ghastly silence.
The Vogan constructor fleet coasted away in the inky, starry void.
Apathetic bloody planets, I've no sympathy at all.